In this video, I'll show you step-by-step how to connect Scheduled, Notion, and LinkedIn. You'll see, it's very simple. First, there's an onboarding that you can follow, and with this video, you'll have all the information you need. First of all, make sure you arrive at this link, not the page where you can log in, but the app.scheduled.so. Welcome. Once you've arrived here, you'll be able to follow the onboarding process to connect everything you need to publish your LinkedIn posts from Notion. So, the first thing to do is to indicate whether you're already using your own Notion template or whether you need one. Here, you can choose one of the two options. So, if you don't have one, you can click on Nope. And you'll be able to duplicate a free Notion template I've made for you, which will make your life a lot easier. So, I'll duplicate it and show you what it looks like. You'll be able to access this template, which will provide you with a minimalist Notion page so you can quickly connect and publish your posts. First of all, you'll have a list of your ideas on the left, so you can put your entire list of ideas here and then. Very simply, once you've got your list of ideas, well, you'll have your ideas here on the left. Well, you can simply drag and drop your ideas from this column to your calendar on the right to schedule according to the day you want to publish your post. Scheduled will then take care of all that. I'm also going to tell you about the statuses that need to be specified. We'll take our time and I'll show you all of this. And that's it. And once you've set the day, don't forget to indicate the time you want to schedule, and not just the day. Otherwise, your post will be published at the first minute of the day, which is midnight. That's all there is to it. So, here you'll find little links to help you, and here you have your database, which will do all the work, so don't delete it. Now that we've downloaded it, we'll click on Done and Continue. Of course, you'll need to create your account before proceeding. So, I'm going to create a demo account, like this. And that's it. Now I've created my account, and the first thing to do is to connect Notion to Scheduled. Now, in this step, you're really going to have to share access to your Notion. This is extremely important. So, obviously, as you can see, it says, I can't share these accesses because I'm not on the right Notion space because it doesn't belong to me. So here I'm going to go to my own Notion space because you can't, of course, share as I did the other Notion spaces where you're invited, of course. And here, basically, I'm going to give access. So I'm going to click on Select Pages, and I'm going to give access, in fact, to Scheduled. So here, obviously, I haven't duplicated the page I showed you just before. I'm going to do that now. Here we go. I'm going to click on Duplicate. That way, I'll have it in my Notion. So there, it duplicates. And if I come back here, that's it. Perfect. I'll just select the template I duplicated. So I'm going to give access. So obviously, I don't have much on Notion because it's a demo. You'll certainly have a lot more. Feel free to use the little search bar to find your scheduled database. There's really no point in sharing all your databases. On the contrary, it's best to avoid it. The more databases you have, the slower the search will be because Scheduled has to find all your databases and propose them to you. So it's really best to select the database you want to share with Schedule. If you've got 2 or 3 because you want to use it with several clients, well, share the 2 or 3. But really try to limit yourself because Scheduled doesn't need access to all your databases anyway. Besides, it's more a question of security. You don't need to share all your data. That doesn't concern your content creation with Scheduled. That's why it's best to select the right database. So once you've shared access, we're going to connect this database to Scheduled. So if you see that your database still doesn't appear here, don't hesitate to refresh the screen, because sometimes the connection between Notion and Scheduled with the API can take a little time. But it shouldn't take more than 3 or 4 minutes if it still doesn't connect. You can write to me via the little chat here, so that we can unblock you very quickly. Next, as I was saying, there are properties. So I'm going to move my head over here. There are some properties that are really prerequisite to being able to connect Scheduled and Notion. If you use the template, you'll already have all these properties created in your template. That's why you've saved time. But I'll explain it to you if you use a new template. The first property is publication time. This is the date property that lets Scheduled know when you want to publish your post. So here, if I go back to the template, I'll create a new post idea, for example. Here, it corresponds to this property. After that, you can name it anything you like. It just has to be of the date type. This is very important to enable Scheduled to retrieve this property here. So, if you have several, for example, date type properties for other things, you'll have the list. There won't be just one proposal, but several, and it's up to you to choose the one that matches. Then the other two properties, and there's only one, are the status. Basically, status allows you to do two things. The first is to tell Scheduled when your post is ready to be planned for the next step. So you are, for example, you're still using the template. You'll see here that I've created a little status property. Then you can use another property. You can name it whatever you like. I click on it to show you the type. So here, the type is a select type, but you can have another type which is status. Here, you can also use this one, which will work just fine. And here, you'll have a status list that corresponds to the evolution of your post. It's more of an idea, a rough draft of what needs to be revised. So there you have it. Obviously, you can put as many statuses as you like. Any status that isn't actually used for Scheduled will not be taken into account. What you're interested in, or at least what Scheduled is interested in, is really the property that's here. For example, ready to be scheduled. So that's the property we're going to use here. And then the last option of this property is just to indicate to Scheduled the status when your post is going to be published. At some point, Scheduled needs to see that if it has published your post, it will change the status and make sure that it doesn't retrieve your post indefinitely. Because if he doesn't change the status, in fact, that would tell Scheduled that it's still ready to be scheduled, so it's going to create a problem. So the goal here is really to put published, to say to Scheduled, well, as soon as you've published it, change the status of that item to. And the advantage for you, too, is that in your Notion, you'll have the published status appearing on your published post. So there you have it. Once it's okay, you can reload the properties if you've forgotten to add one. Or if you're missing something, don't hesitate to add it, and then click here to retrieve the new property live. Now you're going to save, well, all this configuration. As soon as that's done, there's one last step, which is to connect to LinkedIn so you can publish, well, either on your profile or on a page. So there you have a choice. In both cases, you'll have to connect your account because even if it's a page, you'll have to be the administrator of that page to be able to write, to be able to publish on, well, on that page. So in my case, for example, I'm going to connect my profile. Like Notion, I'll have to give access, so I'll use this account. We're so not used to connecting to LinkedIn with these passwords that sometimes we forget them. So once you've put in the right password and the right email, you'll be able to connect your profile. So here, it's good that it's the profile you want to connect. So I'm going to click on Connect, and now, well, everything's okay. I'll even be able to go here to see that my database, which is in Sources, is connected. If you click on the back, you'll see the various properties. By the way, here is a little trick, because I was telling you earlier that when you publish a post, you see that only the date has been set. So that's a little bit of a problem with Notion. It won't default to a publication time, so it's always better. I'm going to put my head in here. Include a date like this. Never forget, because you see, even when I include by default, it will set midnight. So here, afterwards, you can put any date you like. So there you go, whatever. And in any case, if you want, just in case, if you forget, because it happens, I've added a formula here in the little template to let you really visualize whether or not you've forgotten the time. For example, if I remove the hour again, you'll see here that the formula will tell you that the hour is missing. So that's pretty handy if you don't want to forget, but just in case, I'd also advise you to set a default time so you can select which time you usually publish. That way, at least, you're sure that even if you forget at some point in a post that you've scheduled for a certain day the time, you know that by default, it's not going to be published at midnight. It's going to be published there, in my case, at 10 o'clock. Perfect. You'll also find other information that will enable you to go a little further, for example, to publish your first comment. So, if you use this attribute, normally it's already set in the template. But here, for example, type is text. Here you'll click on, voila, your first comment. Well, it'll be published directly with your post a few seconds later. So that's the advantage of publishing links. You can't put it directly in your post or even as a complement to your content, which can sometimes be too long, but the first comment is pretty effective. Secondly, it allows you to simply retrieve the URL of your post. And here at least, it will allow you directly, once your post is published, well, Scheduled will be able to modify this property to put the URL of your post. This way, you'll be able to easily find your posts in your Notion. Voila. It's a plus, a post format that allows you to publish an article with a clickable link and a clickable image too. In any case, you've got the documentation, so don't hesitate. Here, if you click here, you'll find everything I'm telling you here, in a slightly more structured way. So there you go, but in any case, for the moment, everything's connected and you can already, well, start programming your posts, even publish your posts. So there you go, simply right here. So the title isn't taken into account. So that's for you in Notion. So you can call it My First LinkedIn Post from Notion and everything in this card. Well, it'll be published. So on LinkedIn with, so the different sublines, images or not, or texts. Well, there you go.